hard to see with the cell phone. Jeremy, I think I did steal yours.
I know my whole argument is.
Had to move it to the back of the room, or?
Extra one down
Oh, I
here.
have no battery. That's why I'm dead.
Did somebody grab the extra one? Oh, I did.
If you push the button, then there's no battery.
I did not know that, but
That's a
it's
good,
helpful.
good knowledge thing right there.
Good to know, Deborah. Good to know. Good to know.
Follow me for more tips. Thank you. Yes, I'm sure.
I may have noticed Ms. Millspaw is not here. Oh, I suppose.
Asking.
Yeah, see, they have some
Make sure you're
illness
good.
there.
Yeah. Wait till you're good before I call. Fine. Let's try.
Hello. Now it's green. There we go.
Oh, yes, okay. All
All
right,
right,
are
go
we
for it.
are we good with our technical issues?
I think we're as good as we're gonna get tonight. Let's do it.
All right, it is 5:46. I am going to call the meeting to order. If everyone would stand for a moment of silence in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Superintendent Harrell, will you call the roll, please?
I will. Chairman Harrison,
Here.
Vice Chair Burnett. Here. Keith Acton. Here. Michelle Childs.
Here.
Deborah Thomas.
Present.
We
We
have,
do have a quorum. I would like to welcome everyone to our November business meeting. It's been a very busy semester already. We have Thanksgiving break in like 2 weeks, so very exciting time. A lot of work going on, I'm sure, at the schools still to prepare for Christmas break.
Next week. It's next week.
It's a week from
Today.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. It goes by fast. So
Yeah.
the Veterans Day programs were really amazing. I think I saw somebody made every one of them, or I think everybody every one of them. But both schools were amazing. Cried yet again at both performances, and very touching. It really is a moving time at both schools, and to see the way the children just respond to it, as well as the community. It's really exciting. So anyways, that's all I have. And Dr. Hoare, will you lead us through our agenda?
absolutely. Next is the opportunity for public comment.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Hearing none, next item.
Next item, is there a legislative representative update?
There's no update as the General Assembly is not in session yet.
All right, next item.
Next item is the superintendent's report. I gave my thorough report last week, but did want to add some context this week to the LSS strategic plan timeline and process, just to make sure that the board and the public are kind of aware of the direction we're going with that. There is a survey that's been released, and if anybody has not taken it yet, we certainly encourage any stakeholders to take that survey. That's a very general stakeholder survey to try to get some broad strokes of kind of where people are and look for opportunities and items or areas where we might be having some success. Working with Ms. Thomas, who was the designated board liaison, we're also putting together a student survey that we're going to see if we can coordinate with the schools and get those taken by students whose parents consent to that surveying. There's some changes in the language so that they would be more student-friendly at different grade levels, and we're only going to go down a certain level. We won't be asking the kindergartners or preschoolers to take a survey, but maybe some of the older elementary school students. What we do after that is identify the themes from the surveys and then bring those themes back to the board for some feedback, some kind of work session, work there with the themes and look at the ones that we look like we might want to develop more specifically. Once the board has given that feedback, we'll identify some areas of focus, and then my hope is to have some roundtable meetings with stakeholders and maybe have some gallery exercises where they can in real time give some feedback on the things that they think are important, give some verbal feedback on the themes that we've identified. Then come up with probably 5 major goals from there, and then bring those draft goals back to the board for feedback. That would probably be March is my goal, to have those back to the board, and then work on action steps with our staff, and then have a board retreat to sharpen the goals and the action steps and really start to put into place what it is that we want to get done in the next 5 years. And then that would basically culminate with a presentation of the draft 5-year strategic plan to the board in June at a work session, and then final approval at the June board meeting. So this is a long process, and just wanted everybody to know that when the survey came out. I didn't want anybody to think that's the last opportunity, certainly for even the public or for the board to give feedback. This will be the board-approved vision for the next 5 years. So if there are any questions on that, I can certainly try to address those.
Have any questions?
No, I would like to add, we've kind of put it out there. It's been in the weekly roar, I know, from LPS. It's on multiple Facebook pages, the link to it. It's very short and it's anonymous, and it's also got some text boxes for you to write things in it that may not fit neatly in a category that you think are things that we should know and maybe should work on. So I encourage everybody, whether you're a parent, an employee of the school system, or just an interested community member, to complete that survey. It's quick.
Report.
Question, is it also located on our website, or if not, could we get it put up on our website?
We could certainly put it on our website,
Okay.
yep.
Just, there may be some people that can't get social media, like in workplaces or whatever, so just a direct link if they could, that'd be great.
Got it.
Item.
Next item is the monthly financial summary. We now have the October financial summary as well, so the board and the public can review both the September and October expense summaries. Nothing specific to report from those summaries.
Questions regarding those, either the September or October expense summaries? Dr. Wald, just a very general question. Is everything tracking as you expect it to? Are there any categories in which there's any outliers?
No,
or-
everything's been as expected so far.
Okay. Hearing no questions, next item.
Next item is the approval of the agenda.
So, board members, is there anything on the consent agenda? So I'm just gonna give the board members an opportunity to remove or remove anything from the consent agenda, or if there's anything, changes, adds, deletes, whatever from the agenda that anybody would like to make. Any updates to the agenda anybody would like to make? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
Before I go to the next item, I meant to say this in my report. As some will notice, we're doing this through a cell phone coverage again. I had some more gremlins in the machine. I don't know if that's related to the renovation here. It may not be. It may be just related to my technical ineptitude. I'm not sure exactly what it was this time, but I apologize for that. And when we give Mr. Adler's report, I'm not going to be able to flash back and forth to the actual presentation, but we can link that presentation to the comments of the YouTube presentation so folks could follow along when they want to. So I apologize for that. We finally got it worked out where the camera was tall enough for Mr. Adler, and it doesn't wind up mattering at this point. But again, apologies for that too. So the next item is the consent agenda, and there are 6 items on the consent agenda.
Is there a motion to get this item on the floor?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second from Mr. Acton and Mr. Burnett. Is there any items anybody would like to remove from the consent agenda or any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
Next item, as we move into our discussion action items, we're going to start with the aforementioned presentation of benchmark data by our Director of Assessment, Accountability, and Data, Matt Adler.
Mr. Adler, the floor is yours.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to be here. Before I forget, which I may forget by the end of the presentation, I wish each one of you a happy Thanksgiving. We're a week away, as Ms. Thomas eloquently stated. We all are very thankful for each of you for what you do for our school system and especially our students. So thank you, and hopefully you have a happy Thanksgiving and a blessed Thanksgiving and a good holiday season. So with that said, I'm going to get started with this presentation. As you can see, we are not in September of 2023 anymore. This data does come from September of 23 due to our first benchmark of the year. The assessment details for the year, and again, I try to give this in context mainly for the public so they know what to expect, is our first benchmark was during the time frame of September 25th through October 3rd. Our second benchmark is coming up right after Thanksgiving break, December 4th through December 12th. And our third benchmark will be at the end of February 26th through March 5th, which gives the teachers the information they need to prepare our students for the TCAP, which will begin on April 15th and run through May 3rd. All grades are tested, grades 2 through 10, and the content areas tested, of course, vary, but they haven't changed. We're just adding on since we're adding grade levels. Grade 2 is ELA and math, grades 3 through 8, ELA, math, science, and social studies. Grade 8, Algebra 1 for selected students, those are your Algebra 1 honors. And then high school grades, well, of course, we have English 1, English 2 now for this year, Algebra 1, geometry, Algebra 2 is an addition, and biology. And then next year we'll add English 3 and US history.
Ask one quick question. So the TCAP, when you said that window, I know some people may hear EOC or whatever when it refers to the high school grades. Is it still the same window?
Yes, the
Okay.
TCAP is the overarching umbrella that includes achievement tests, which are grades 2 through 8, and EOCs.
Okay, great, thank you.
And the EOC window is 3 weeks long, where achievement for the lower grades is like 2 weeks long. But it all falls within that window. For the first benchmark for ELA, this is the same process as we looked at in September when I presented spring 23 assessment data. As I'm giving you a 3-year look plus the projected success rate for the benchmark. We're looking at the data in a variety of perspectives, so it gives you clear context for what's happening in a larger picture and what's happening from year to year. So this first is for grades 2 through 4 for ELA. The first 3 columns, very similar to what you saw in September or in August, where you have the success rate from 21, 22, and 23, and you can see improvement in those 3 years. And then the benchmark, the first benchmark, projected success rate for 2024. Now, of course, the green column is lower than where we were last year, but this is also a comprehensive test, as I have said many times for ELA, and we are tracking in the right direction. And these are the results that you would expect for your first benchmark.
So can I clarify just for?
You may.
And do y'all understand on comprehensive test, ELA is different than the others. On the other ones, they only take part of the material that they've covered and use that as a projection. And in ELA, you take the full year's worth of testing every time. And I think the board understands that. Mr. Adler's explained it, but just for the public.
Yeah. Grades 5 through 10 now. In grades 5 through 8, we have the 3-year averages, of course, because we've had those ever since we've been benchmarking. For English 1, we had last year's benchmark compared to where we are, or last year's success rate compared to the benchmark, and we're tracking in the right direction. In English 2, we have nothing to compare to because we have not had those classes before. And again, as I have said before, the benchmark projected success rate is right on track of where they were last year, which is a good sign because it's early on. They took this benchmark in September. And then the next slide that I'm going to show you shows some very positive changes that are happening within our schools. And that's the projected proficiency for ELA for where we were with the benchmarks. So the first benchmark from 21-22, the first benchmark in 22-23, and the first benchmark in 23-24. And I know you've all seen these slides, and I don't know how much you've studied, but the yellow is all higher than where we were in the first benchmark in the previous 2 years. So that is a very positive sign for what's happening in the classroom. The teachers are starting to understand these benchmarks. They're starting to use this data in real time to move the kids forward. And then I also wanted to include benchmark predictability of how good our benchmark is for predicting success rate. And I've only done that for the last 2 years. For 21-22, the first benchmark, we were at 60.1 for grade 2, just for an example. And then 21-22 TCAP success rate was 56.9. Of course, the second year, they're used to using the benchmark. We started on time, and the success rate at the end of the year was much higher, which is what you expect, because there's more instruction that happens once they get that benchmark data back. And then you can see the same thing for ELA for grade 3 and for grade 4. So in essence, all I'm saying is that the benchmark testing is still a good indicator of how our students are going to perform. Then grades 5 through 8 plus EOC, same thing. The actual success rate is slightly higher than the benchmark predicted, but that's what we want to see, because the benchmark is a tool to find out where our gaps are to make sure our students move forward. Math. Going through this again. 21 success rate, 22 success rate, and 23 success rate, all compared to the projected success rate for the first benchmark. We are tracking in grade 3. It's a positive track. It's higher than where we were last year at the end of the year on the first benchmark, which is a positive sign. You look at the projected proficiency for math, where we were with the benchmark, that third column is very promising. It's higher than the first 2 columns. So again, teachers are using this tool to move their students forward. Again, the predictor, you look at those last 2 columns, the second year, it's pretty close. We're tracking in the correct way for grades 5 through 8. Projected proficiency in math for grades 5 through 8. And again, this is comparing the benchmarks. You can see it's tight, but the yellow is higher than the red, which is what you want. You want to see that progress. You want to see that growth, or the improvement, not the growth, the improvement in success rate on the benchmark compared to where we were at the same time a year ago. And with EOC math, we have Algebra 1 middle, and I separated this Algebra 1 out for the middle because that's the honors, and Algebra 1-9, which is everybody. And then the Geometry 9, that should say geometry, because now we have geometry for 9 and 10, and that just, I apologize for not catching that until earlier today. And Algebra 2. And Algebra 2, these are honor students at the high school level. It's not your whole cadre. Next year, it'll be all your students. Standard and honors.
Just for clarity,
Yes.
so when the yellow for geometry last year was geometry honors,
That was geometry honors.
and then this
Yeah.
year is
It's all student,
okay,
yeah.
thank you.
And again, comparing the benchmarks, again, it's almost the same on every slide. So you can see it across the board, that instruction and student response and teacher response to the data, to the benchmark tool, they're responding in a positive way, and the trend is what you want to see. And the predictability, again, we want to see that the success rate is higher at the end of the year compared to the final benchmark, because that final benchmark, or really this is first benchmark, so that's really early in the year. But you want to see that final success rate, the highest bar out of them all, because the benchmark, again, is just a tool. The actual performance on the test is what you want to see as your highest value. They're close. goes for grades 5 through 8 math. I said this back in August or September, but look at Math 8, that first benchmark compared to their success rate at the end of the year. There's teaching going on. There's instruction happening. They're finding the gaps. They're identifying the standards that are needed to be readdressed or reinforced, and they're helping kids learn. And the predictability, again, kind of beating a dead horse. It's kind of the same thing over and over. It's a good predictor, and we see that there's movement from the first benchmark to the end of the year. Want to see. And for science, just put this all on one slide. Grades 3 through 9 for biology, and again, comparing the success rates from the last 3 years to the first benchmark. And we're close. We're tracking in the right direction. And with the projected, where we were last year, look at the yellow. That is something to be proud of. And I'm glad the principals are in the room because they need to see that as well, because their teachers are doing a good job. That yellow we want that yellow to be higher than the red. And the predictability, again, the first bar is lower than the second bar. The third bar is lower than the fourth bar. And again, it's a good predictor, good tool, and we want to continue to see that. Now, the more years we do this too, and the more times the teachers do this, they get used to it and they understand the expectations, and the students start taking it seriously as well, more seriously than what they already do. And the last is social studies. You look at the success rates compared to the projected, tracking in the right direction. We're close. And again, social studies is only 6th grade for now. U.S. history will be next year. This is probably the only slide where the yellow is lower than the red, and that's only in grade 7, and it's not that much lower. There's time. Again, very promising. And the benchmark predictability, same thing. First column lower than the second column, third column lower than the fourth column, which is what you want. But it's not just leaps and bounds difference. It's not a vast difference. It's still, I think I've said within 10%, even though 10 to 15% is usually a pretty good indicator. And now, the floor is yours if you have any questions for me.
Yeah, so one question I had is, how are we tracking compared to like 2018 and prior? Because I know we didn't have exams in 2019, and I know there was certainly learning loss, and you may have to get that. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I just thought of it now, or I would have asked in advance. But I would just kind of like to see, I know it's like several years ago, but at the same time, I know that was like a big thing for a while, and I know the teachers have worked so hard on, having to spend extra time. We've had, resources with extra tutoring, and so I just would like to see if at most levels we're at that, or if we're behind, or if we're ahead, or just what that looks like.
If I was going to venture a guess, I would say we're either there or we're starting to surpass. But I'm not going to go off the top of my head. I would like to look at those numbers.
Okay, and then, and this might be more of a doctoral question, but I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know with TVOS, we had like a 5 for achievement, and that was like based on TCAP, is that right? Or
TVOS is not the achievement measure. What Mr. Adler's been going over is achievement measures. TVOS is the growth or value added. And
with achievement, we had a separate achievement score.
Address,
please.
Or I'm sorry, whoever can address it.
Achievement is your snapshot. It's the one-time TCAP in the spring. That's your achievement measure. And the benchmarking that we do throughout the year is measuring achievement along the way to see how those kids are performing. TVOS is the actual growth, and we don't get those numbers until the following fall when they calculate how the cohort of kids compared to that same cohort of kids throughout the state and where they ended up. And we always use the track analogy. I'm sure you've heard the track analogy before. If you start at the starting line and you don't make it all the way around to the starting line, you didn't grow. If you get past the starting line, you grew some. If you get way past, you grew a lot,
Okay, all right,
if that makes sense.
yeah, all right, thank you.
Well, and since we couldn't show, you said we couldn't show the screen and Mr. Adler at the same time, right?
I'm trying to, the system is recording. It's possible that we'll be able to upload this, but
So it's an interesting way to look at things that people probably aren't accustomed to. So success rate means they met or they exceeded expectations.
Correct.
So you shouldn't, for the public, you shouldn't be looking at these as percentages or like letter grades or anything like that. I think
Right.
sometimes you can look at those numbers and go, oh my gosh, but those numbers are, oh my gosh, good when you look at how many are in those 3 or 4 level.
Correct.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that in case anybody's looking back at it and wonders, what does that mean?
Yeah, success rate is how many students met or exceeded the expectation.
Right. So, since our principals are here and you were talking about the data and like you said, the data bear out the fact that there's actionable stuff that goes on when they get these back in their hands. The teachers, they like these reports that they get so they can go back and hit the things. So they're getting what they need and it's helpful and, okay. So I know it used to be Case 21, now it's MVP, right? What was our first year of doing Case 21? Was it post-COVID?
No, it was 21, 22.
21, 22. So we don't have these data in the same form, right?
Yeah, it's semantics
Yeah.
issue, like they just changed the name from
Right.
case. It's still the same test,
Okay.
same benchmarking.
we don't have it prior to 21, 22.
That's what I mean.
Yes,
I mean,
there's no
we've seen the
comparison there.
data we
Correct.
have,
And I
right?
think that also corresponds with the year that the testing vendor changed,
Yeah.
that Pearson
Correct.
took over, which will make it a little bit different going back prior to that, but we can certainly get that.
Yeah, we can still run numbers for where we were pre-COVID, but again, understanding that it was a different test and a different measurement.
Appreciate this. It looks really, really good, and I'm glad it gets something in teachers' hands they can actually use.
Yeah, and what I've seen, and I've mentioned this numerous times before, but what I've seen is an ownership by the teachers that take their data and they want to know how to get that data to be better and how it looks. And they're concerned of what I'm going to say when I come to the board meeting and present the data. They don't want to be browbeat or anything along those lines. But they're working hard, PLCs are working hard, and the instructional supervisors that I work with, I share this information with them so they can take it back to PLCs and really make movement within our system.
Mr. Adler, we
you.
appreciate it every time you come and present this data. It's wonderful. I really do, and I speak for the board, appreciate the time that you put into doing this for our teachers, for our school system, to help us grow students and help students along the way, and also help the teachers help the students along the way.
Absolutely.
So thank you for all of your hard work with this.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Mr.
Have a good
Adler.
night.
Yeah, have a good evening.
I think it
Yes,
might.
I think it'll just
work
turn off by
itself.
itself.
All right.
Thank you.
Carl?
Next item is approval of 23-24 tenure recommendations.
Motion to get this item on the floor?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second, and I think everybody wants to second and then motion, so we'll just mark it as everybody. So Dr. Horrell, if you'll speak to this one?
I will. This is one of the more exciting things we do, and that is the board approves the recommendations of the principals for tenure. And to achieve tenure, teachers must have been teaching in our school system for 5 years, and in the last 2 of those years, they need to have had 4s or 5s on their LOEs, which is the final score basically for their evaluation, which includes their data. And we have a tremendous group of teachers, a very big group of teachers,
24 of them.
That what's that?
24.
Thank you for counting. That's more specific. That we're recommending for tenure. A lot of folks from Lakeland Preparatory School from when the school just opened, and some outstanding educators from Lakeland Elementary as well. Such a big group that if the board approves this tenure list, we're going to move our next meeting to the reception that we have for the tenured teachers. We're going to have that at Lakeland Preparatory School in the library with the board's approval. So both principals are here. We appreciate Ms. Lockhart and Ms. Martin being here, and they know how exciting this is for these teachers. And we enthusiastically recommend these 24 teachers for tenure to the board.
I'll speak first. I was very excited to see this list. Many of the names are familiar from when we started Lakeland Preparatory School, and even from the elementary school people that came on board as we were opening and expanding our school system. So I'm super excited for these teachers, and I thank the principals for bringing this forward and recommending these teachers to us. And I think this is probably not the most exciting, but it's pretty exciting to be able to do this for our teachers and support them in this way. So with that, I'll open it up to the rest of the board.
I'll start on this end and we can work down. How about that? I'd like you echo your remarks. Great honor here to celebrate these fine teachers and educators. And I know several of the names as educators who've had my kids, and they're all wonderful. So I appreciate all the support and effort they've put into getting to this point, and this is the easiest part of the job. So,
Anybody else?
No, I've taught in a large school system where you don't know the people, you can't picture the people, and looking down this list and picturing the people and knowing how many of them I've hugged and how many of them have had my child and how many have figured my child out and done all those little extra things, given him a hug on a day when he needed it. It really makes me feel good to know these people and to know how much they love what they do and how selfless they are with their time and their efforts. And like Mr. Acton said, this is the easiest thing to say yes, yes, yes to 24 times.
I'd say the same thing. It's such a joy to be part of a school system where you look down this list and 20 of the 24 names, can picture their faces. They've invested in my children. They've corrected my children, probably even this week for some of these names, and celebrate their successes and hold them accountable. And I certainly appreciate that. I love the quality of the teachers and the staff that we have at the school. And just to say the same thing again, this part of the job is so easy and so rewarding to just say yes.
Sure. We're saved the best for last, right?
Likewise, several of these educators some of them have both of my children, and, just such, just amazing talent. Part of the reason we probably all have chosen to be on the school board because of the amazing staff that we have. And I'm just thrilled that, these staff want to have tenure and keep on teaching, and I'm excited for the classes they have now and the classes they have to come, and our people are our best asset.
Is there any more comments?
Do this by roll call vote.
If you would like to. All right, Dr. Horrell, if you would take a roll call, is last chance, no comments? Okay, all right, if you will take a roll call vote, I'd appreciate it.
Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Burnett?
Yes.
Mr. Acton?
yes.
Ms. Childs?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
It is unanimous.
We have 5 yeses, 0 nos. Motion passes. Next item.
Next item is approval of staff bonuses.
A motion to get this item on the floor?
So moved.
We have a motion and
I'll
a
second
second. We have a motion and a second and a third. Dr. Horrell, if you will speak to this.
I will. At the work session, the board directed me or asked me to research proposals for potential staff bonuses for the Christmas season. We came up with our team, with Ms. Millspaugh in finance, and I'm sorry, Ms. Millspaw in human resources and Ms. Rosales in finance. We came up with 3 proposals to present that I presented to the board members. The board members gave me individual feedback on those proposals, and the feedback that I got individually from each of the board members suggested that the board was in favor of staff bonuses for $1,000 for certified staff and other categories of staff that would fall under that, and $750 for classified staff. So in turn, based on those individual responses, I am recommending to the board formally staff bonuses of $1,000 and $750 to our staff. That is in the form of the budget amendments in the next agenda item. So if I'm not sure that action is actually required on this agenda item. I just wanted to give the context. But by approving the budget amendments in item number 4, the board would in effect be approving those bonuses.
If the board so desires, I would like to take a vote on Dr. Horl's proposal. If there's if there's no objection to that, I would like to. Okay. Is there any discussion regarding this item?
Well deserved. Excited to reward those who work so hard for the school system. Feel like we can take 2 and 3 here and just have a big celebration. So.
I would say that when Dr. Harlan and I met to talk about this, one of the things that I wanted to make sure we were able to do, and again, they've figured out to make this work, that we're not only investing in our people, but we're also front-loading in the same time. The other thing that we'll talk about in our next item on the textbooks and software technology item, so we were able to do both and instead of one or the other.
I just want to say I'm very excited that this board I feel like this is yet another way we're supportive of our people and the things that they do every day, and I think this is just one more way to show them. I certainly feel like this board does lots of things to show, but I think at this time of year, I'm very appreciative and excited that the board seems to be, and certainly we've got to vote, but based on feedback, at least it sounds like that everybody's given Dr. Horl that we're, again, supportive of our people, and we're able to do this for our people, for the things that they do for us every single day, and that they're doing in the classroom based on that presentation every single day that they're doing for our kids and our families and our community and for our school system. So with that being said, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
Next item is approval of FY 23-24 budget amendments, bonuses, and textbooks.
I'll make a motion to get this item on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Horl?
Thank you. I do want to note that there was one budget amendment on the consent agenda that was discussed at the work session. Those budget amendments focus mainly on our grants, and we were able to take a look at those on at the work session. This budget amendment includes the aforementioned bonuses that the board just approved, and also includes $100,000 to front load our textbook fund. This would allow, is that right? Was it 100? Yeah, $100,000 to front load the textbook fund. The concern came up and was brought by some board members that as we were adding grade levels and adding new courses and new curricula, that it was challenging the way the budget for textbooks and software was set up, that it would not go into effect until July 1, which put us at a disadvantage in terms of getting it in time. So by the board approving these funds, we hope we can make a one-time correction that allows us to pre-order those materials that need to be pre-ordered. And then next year, assuming we keep a similar textbook and curriculum budget, then we can also use that same amount of funds or percentage of that budget to pre-order the following year. So this was another, I think, situation where the board was responding to feedback that had been passed on to them. Research got some clarification. I think from talking to my staff, this would be much appreciated and practical.
This item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
Next item is the election of the legislative representative.
I'll I'll make a motion to get this item on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I believe we had a discussion at our work session, and the question was requested of Ms. Childs if she'd be willing to accept it again. Is that a correct statement? And you said you would be willing to accept it again. So hearing that, I'll nominate Ms. Childs for, I guess the correct term now is legislative representative instead of DLN rep. So legislative representative, is there a second?
Second, and I'd also move to close the, for nominations.
I love that idea.
Jump up now.
So now's your chance to decline the nomination. All right. Hearing no, or having the floor closed for nominations, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Welcome to your repeat position.
You've done a great job, Michelle.
You really
so-
have. You really
Absolutely.
cover all of it very well and keep us on track with our legislative agenda and all of the things legislative. So we really do appreciate the job you do.
And I'll say Ms. Childs is outstanding to work with and takes it seriously and is on top of things and cues them up for me, and I know all of us, and it makes us aware in terms of sharing information, so I appreciate that.
It's also worth noting that some of what she's authored became the model for other municipal school districts to use to submit to TSBA, and that ours is the one going before TSBA for at least one, if not both of ours. So again, just evidence of the quality work you do.
Well, I appreciate it, but Dr. Horrell had a lot to do with that particular one. But I did share,
Work at
you
the
know.
pleasure and direction of the board members.
No, I appreciate it. You know, it's an honor to serve, and it's going to be a very, this might be the most contentious legislative session for schools since the original voucher, because there's a big push for it to be brought statewide. So just be thinking about the things that, you know, you want to have on the legislative agenda. I like going to SBA and learning from other boards and seeing what resolutions get put forth to inform ours before we, you know, have a final version. But certainly it will include our resolutions and the voucher, and we're going to get more information about this new grading situation for schools. Yeah, so put your thinking hats on, listen this week when we get to TSBA, and, you know, give feedback to Dr. Horrell to give to me for the legislative agenda. But thank you for your confidence.
Well, next item.
Already voted, right?
Yes, we
Okay,
already voted.
Thank you, all right. I'm sorry.
Yes, she's not backing out now.
All right. Final
Go to the
item.
next item, quick.
I lost track. Next and final item on the agenda is the review of policy manual, section 4. My understanding is there aren't any recommendations.
As always, the board is welcome to bring any policy items, section 4 or otherwise, and add it to any agenda for, just as a reminder, for our annual policy review. And thank you, Policy Committee, for your, I believe this section was pretty inclusive, so thank y'all for your work.
Kim Lewis and Tammy Beauvais, every month, they probably know this policy manual very, very well at this point, and they always try to take a fresh look with fresh eyes, especially as the LPS grows and things are a little more applicable in some ways than they have been before. So they're a great team to work with.
Thank y'all for the work you do. Are there any announcements? Yeah.
Just an announcement for Lakeland Education Foundation is sponsoring the second annual Lakeland Festival of Lights to celebrate Christmas.
Yes.
This year there are multiple categories. There's a category for competitive level for those people that spend a lot of money on their front yards. You all know who you are. Sign up this year again. There's a fun one for people that just want to be a part of that fun, and there's a third one for businesses to participate this year.
Great, that's really cool.
And so just look forward to people doing that and being able to participate in the Christmas festivities.
Other announcements? I think everybody's heard us talk, but this week the board will travel to the annual TSBA convention or leadership conference, legislative workshop, legal workshop, and annual convention where we meet with school boards across the state and benchmark and learn lots of good information that we can bring back here to put in place and possibly implement, or best practices, things like that, to possibly look at for Lakeland school systems. So wish your board, certainly everybody on this board, safe travels and all of that. If there's no more announcements, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion and do we have a second? A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.
All right, let me stop
Gavel.
this.
At